and welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real metaphysical and occult content so you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, we're going to be continuing our Mage Minded series with a discussion on courage. Okay? Courage is hands down a topic that is as much, if not more, misunderstood than our discussion on honor, which so many people loved and we got so much great feedback on. So, this is definitely one that I wanted to talk about, and we are doing this live in front of our online community at workingdragonmystic.com. And afterwards, we will be having a live discussion about this topic. If you would like to join us when we record these live before they get posted to YouTube or Rumble, check us out at workingdragonmystic.com. Join the online community. It's absolutely free to join us and take part in these live discussions. All right, so let's get into this. Courage. What is courage? Well, one of the best definitions of courage that I have located is courage. Quality of being brave, the ability to face danger, difficulty, uncertainty, or pain without being overcome by fear or being deflected from a chosen course of action. I like this definition, okay? Because it addresses a few key points that are highly misunderstood when we talk about bravery and courage. One of the first in there that we do see is it talks about fear, okay? Being brave is not about the absence of fear. It is not. It is having courage to act in the face of fear, okay? A man who has no fear is not brave. In fact, he would be an emotionally unbalanced fool, not a brave individual. If there is no fear, there can be no courage. One without fear cannot be courageous. There are even some who would say that courage is a province of the wise. So the unwise cannot be courageous because they would act foolhardily. So consider that as well. Of course, it is the act of being brave, right? So yes, you are scared. Yes, things are going on around you. It is not a comfortable situation, yet you follow through. You do what is right. You do what you need to do. You don't let the fear take hold of you, right? And it is your ability to face danger. Yes, a lot of people, when we talk about courage, they talk about dangerous situations, right? Bears, animal attacks, shootings, all kinds of awful things that people may talk about or bring up. Fights, being threatened by someone. We've all heard of school bullies and stuff, right? But it also addresses things like difficulty and uncertainty, which are very, very important. And one of the quotes that I have in here later actually touches on those too. Bravery is not just about extreme cinematic courage, okay? It is cultivated every day in many, many ways. And ladies and gentlemen, one of these ways that I want to bring up later in here is very, very, very important to our day-to-day life. So please stay tuned for that one, okay? Now, Mark Twain. I love to read a lot of Mark Twain's quotes. I do think he was a good writer. A lot of people don't like him. I do. But one of the things he wrote is courage is the resistance to fear, mastery of fear. So courage is the resistance to fear as well as the mastery of fear, not the absence of fear, right? So in this situation, fear is present. You are resistant to being overtaken by fear. You're resistant to letting fear control your choices and your actions. And you have the ability to master yourself in that fear and master fear and continue and do what you should do anyway, right? Now, let's take a moment, put a pin in that, because we are talking about this. That does not mean that a bear attacks you and you want to go fight the bear with your bare hands or, tell it to put up its dukes like you're going to go round for round with Mike Tyson. That ain't what it means. You don't have to be stupid to be brave, right? Sometimes the brave thing to do is actually get yourself out of a scenario, out of a situation, to remove yourself from a conflict. That is the case. That is true. That is true. There are subtleties to this. However, it will also be argued that a coward is someone who sees something that is happening that is wrong, happening that is hurting, like somebody's being hurt, somebody's being threatened, something like that. And that person's a perfectly innocent person and they just let it happen, right? Um, that could also be called a coward because you saw something that should have been done and you did nothing, right? So there are subtleties to this, right? Now, that does not mean that if you see, let's say, a bank robber being arrested, for example, that you should go knock the cops upside the head and get the bank robber free because you don't think the bank robber should be arrested, right? No, that falls into that category of stupidity, right? If someone breaks the laws, the correct thing is justice. So there is that caveat as well, because there are a lot of people who try to use that caveat and abuse it to cause chaos, strife, and lawlessness. So I just want to clarify that one real quick. So there are a lot of subtleties that a person has to consider. And some of these you may have to answer for yourself. Some of these you may have to. What is right? What is wrong? And some people may see you as a coward, and others may see you as brave. But it's all, some much like honor. What is the motivator of your action here, right? Because if you think about it, if somebody is getting attacked or something, and this guy's bigger than me, but I want to help him. So I wade in and I try to do my best to help him to diffuse the situation or put myself between these individuals to the best of my ability and, those kinds of things. Well, that could be fueled by me wanting to do the right thing and fighting against my fear, right? But if there's no fear to be had anyway, I'm not doing something brave. Or if you charge in out of anger, that's not bravery either, because you are now acting on anger. You are specifically acting on anger. Your actions are fueled by anger, not by choice, right? Bravery, your mind needs to be making a choice without emotion. That is where courage comes from. That's why they talk about courageous and wise so much. If you're acting out of emotion, you're already on the wrong road. Even if the outcome might be correct, it's technically wouldn't be acting brave because you are still acting from emotion. All right. There is a Native American quote. I hope I don't butcher this. It's Oisia said, "The brave man," and this is how Native Americans view courage, right? "The brave man, we contend, yields neither to fear nor anger, desire nor agony. He is at all times master of himself. His courage rises to the heights of chivalry." Think about that. He is at all times the master of himself. That again touches on that emotional side. You are making the choice. You are in control of your facilities. That's why this is one of those big ones in the Mage Minded series. You are very, very aware of where you are. You are very aware of what's going on. You are not acting out of emotion. You are making a logical, deliberate, mindful choice. You are present in the moment making those choices, those thoughts. Okay? That is very, very important. And you'll notice it's not out of anger. So they're not acting out of anger. They're not acting out of desire, right? This is one of the ones I want to talk about. A lot of people want to talk about willpower and everything when it comes to getting in shape, losing weight. I would beg the question, do you have the courage to make the changes in your life? Because we can really desire that cheesecake. You know what I mean? But do you have the courage to not pick it up? Do you have the courage to forego it? Foregoing desire for what is right and what is the path you've chosen, that is courage in and of itself. We've started throwing the word willpower around willy-nilly and attaching it to everything to the point where we've honestly lost the concept of how much choice really is available. How much choice is there? There's so much rhetoric about how much choice we don't have that we've honestly lost sight of 90% of the actual choices we do have, and we forget we actually have them with the way we've thrown around linguistics and rhetoric. Um, and I would highly consider that. Now, one must honestly work to be mindful of themselves every day. Know thyself, self mastery. That's kind of one of our big shticks on this channel is self mastery, self empowerment. Self mastery comes first because you need that to get over to the self empowerment side. You need to be in control of your thoughts. You need to be in control of your emotions. You need to be in control of you, and you need to be mindful, and you need to be present always in what you do. Okay. So consider those things, meditate on those, if you will. One must be in control of one's mind to be courageous and act by choice, not by emotion, right? We've discussed that a little bit. That's a note I have here. If you are going to act courageous, if you are going to have courage, you need to be in control of your mind. Okay. Confucius. Anyone ever hear of that guy? He's kind of popular, kind of famous. Confucius taught to see what is right and not do it is cowardice. There it is. So Confucius is actually the one that said that. If you see something, if you have an opportunity to do what is right, but you don't do it, he would actually say that is an act of cowardice. And this you see a lot in peer pressure, right? Even as old as I am, I've heard that word. I got that drilled in my head so often when I was young. Peer pressure. You go along with something because everyone else is, right? The brave individual, the courageous person is going to do what's right regardless of what the crowd thinks, right? Mob mentality, group thinking is kind of the opposite of bravery, because if you're in one of those groups and they're just running around doing stupid stuff, um, doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. If everybody's doing the right thing, great. That the world needs more large groups doing the right thing, right? But if your friends are acting a fool, doing stupid, breaking into somebody's house just to watch TV, mess it up, steal their food, hell, steal their property, breaking windows, and you go along with it because you don't want to be made fun of, that's an act of cowardice, right? It is straight up. If you give in to peer pressure because you don't want to be made fun of, that's technically not showing courage. And a lot of people's like, well, can't you say it's not showing courage and said it's an act of cowardice? I could, but I'm not going to do that all the time because I do think it's important for us to throw in that if you're not acting courageous, you're acting the fool or a coward. We need to know specifically how we're acting. We need to be told. That's how we learn. You can't polish a turd and expect someone to learn from it. You really can't. Okay. So, yes, we're just going to call it what it is. All right. But the good thing is that you can practice these daily. And here's the one that really sunk in with me when I read it. And this is one that I try to remind myself of a lot. And it's one that I remind friends of a lot. It's one clients, I give it to them a lot because this is a side of courage that we don't think about, right? And I would say this is the side that helps you temper your courage the most. And in honesty, in 98% of people's lives, this is where courage is needed the most. Okay, so this is the big one here. And it's actually a quote by Robert Louis Stevenson. Okay, the world has no room for cowards. We must all be ready somehow to toil, to suffer, to die. And yours is not the less noble because no drum beats before you. When you go out into your daily battlefields and no crowds shout about your coming when you return from your daily victory or defeat. Okay? Now, yes, that sounds, woo, he writes that with some good impact, right? And I love the impact on that. But look at how he wrote it, people. How he wrote it is so important. No less noble because no drum beats before you or no crowds cheer your return. Okay? He is literally talking about your daily life here. When you get up and you go out to work, when you come home from work, just because the drums and fanfare aren't ushering you off to work as some would usher off soldiers and fighters to war, especially classically back in the day. And just because there's no fanfare when you come home, people cheering your name, holding signs, those kinds of things, that makes your struggles, your facing of a day to day life, no less noble. The challenges are different, the struggles are different. I'm not going to say an office worker faces the same struggles as an active duty military member or an active duty police officer or a first responder. We know that's not the case. But that does not change the fact that it actually does take courage to get up, put your pants on, eat your breakfast, get out there and do that job. Most of us, probably 75% of the time, we dread going to work. We dread being at work. We dread punching the clock. We dread working on a spreadsheet. We dread working on the factory line. We dread working the register. I don't care how much you like what you do. Most of the time, you're going to dread it. It's miserable. You're tired. You'd rather be doing anything else, any of your hobbies. Work is work for a reason. You will toil, right? And when we toil, we do suffer. And we have to face these things. And honestly, we should face them with our head high, and we should face them head on, because that is how we progress. One must face these things in order to progress. Now, he definitely starts this hard hitting with toil, suffer, die, right? And in all honesty, if you think about it, that is the condition of nature. You can't blame society on it, right? People try to, but you can't, because with or without society, you're born, you're going to have to work, you're going to have to toil, you're going to have to do things to survive. And then as you do those things to survive, it's things you got to do them. You don't really get an option. They're not optional if you wish to survive. And you will have to do those all the while you're on this planet until you die. It's no different than a monkey. It's no different than a lion. It's no different than a fish. All living creatures must toil, right? We actually have it easier because we actually control our toil a bit more. Let's be honest, if we shut down industry in its entirety and everybody now must hunt and gather their food, most of us are dying. We're not surviving. We are no longer capable of actually surviving. Let's be honest. So yeah, you're going to have problems. So let's stop blaming what it isn't, and let's actually look at what it is. The simple fact is we don't want to go to work. We don't like it. It ain't fun. But that's not a bad thing. It's not it's not bad that you can look in the mirror and say it ain't fun. I'm having a rough patch. That's okay. You're allowed to have a rough patch. Rough year, rough 5 years, rough 10 years. The question is, do you have the courage to get up in the morning, face the day, and keep moving forward, keep progressing, keep continuing to keep working to a better tomorrow? That's the question. That's the courage. That's the place where most people, in all honesty, will truly temper that. And the reason this comes up with so many clients is I do talk with a lot of people with PTSD and other things, people who honestly and truly on God's green earth don't know if they got the ability to see tomorrow. Now, since this is going on YouTube and Rumble, there's certain words I can't say. This touches on one of those subjects. And that courage to carry forward, that courage to carry on, that courage to find a better tomorrow is indeed one of those things that helps them get through those patches. But it's also important because when we talk about this genuinely, the way it was wrote out here by Stevenson, it also is kind of comforting to realize we all of us are facing that daily toil, that daily stress, that daily crap show that it may be. And we all have to find that reason to get up. We all have to find that reason to carry on. We all have to toil for that better tomorrow, whatever it may be. And we all know, no matter how good tomorrow is, let's be honest, somewhere down the line, there's another crap show. We know that. And we continue to face the days, no matter how good or bad they are, knowing another bad day's coming. That's life. That's the journey. And that does take courage. So when you get up, when you face the day, when you put your boots on, when you go to work, you face traffic, and you begrudgingly get through your day, you have shown a measure of courage. Okay. And you'll notice in there, he actually talks about your daily victory or defeat. It takes courage to face the day, whether you think it was a successful day or whether you think that day went for bust, right? Believe me, I got my days, lots of days, where I feel like nothing productive got done. I made it through the day, I accomplished it, but I wonder if anything actually got done. That would fall into the defeat category. And then I got days where I'm just kicking chicken. Everything's just going every which way. It is great. I'm just getting things done left and right. I get home, I clock out. It's amazing. I feel great. That's a victory. Right? Courage is one of those complex issues that a lot of people struggle with. It is. And it is complex in the fact that, yes, sometimes courage is standing your ground, standing for what you believe in. Sometimes courage is actually having the courage to walk away from a situation, even while people might poke fun at you and attempt to make fun of you. And that's, unfortunately, it is a sad position, but it is where we are in the world. And that's where, life really does take hold, right? It is a very hard thing to stand up and tell your friends, no, I ain't doing that because A, right? Or B. It is actually pretty tricky. It really is. I'm actually pretty lucky in my close friend group. I, for the longest time, never touched alcohol. None of them ever pressured me to either. They just, Drake was the guy who didn't drink, right? For whatever reason, they didn't give a crap. I can't say the same thing about most of the other friend groups I knew growing up. I was lucky with my friend group. Every other person I knew, their friend group, they would pressure for alcohol in some way or another, or other things. I'm just using alcohol as one example here, right? At the same time, like when I did decide to try a few alcohols and stuff, my friends actually was like, "Oh, whoa, Drake, are you sure?" Like they were touching base with me, making sure I'm thinking straight, right? Because all these years they want to make sure Drake hasn't lost his mind. Okay, fine. However, I also decided about mid-December I'm not going to have another drink for a good long time, and I told some of my close friends with that, and they didn't miss a beat. They're like, "Well, that's good for you." There's a lot of people who their friend group, if they said, I'm going to stop drinking, they're going to make fun of them. They're going to poke fun of them. They're going to laugh at them. That is a very, very tricky thing to do, right? It is. And I know a lot of people. I know a lot of people will not go to the gym because the gym culture has shifted. There was a time and a place where going to the gym was amazing. And if you can still find a great gym, it is still amazing. I absolutely would agree if you can find a good one. Um, However, the last few times I went to a public gym, you would see people my size or bigger coming in trying to get their workout on, trying to build a routine, and all the little gym rats are making fun of them. Oh, look at Fatty Fatso! How dare he? The whole reason he's here is to actually try and turn that life around, and that meathead over there is being a complete jerk off. Well, for the jerk off who's making fun of people, I would say that is a coward because their self confidence is so low that they honestly, yeah, they have to pick fun at someone else to make themselves feel better. They got their own issues to deal with. However, to those who don't look like they belong in the gym and they're there to do the best they can to make their tomorrow better, I would place those as the courageous because they're facing the scorn, they're facing the ridicule to the best of their ability. Something to think about, right? Now, we'd usually, on some of these, we try to throw in a few extra quotes and stuff. And I found some really good ones that I want to share with you all to consider meditating on. We'll throw these here at the end. If you're watching this live here in the community, do go ahead and drop some questions in the chat. And after we get done with going over these quotes to meditate on, we will start our live chat when we stop the recording. If you are interested in joining us live, and of course, after the recording, taking part in the after chat discussions where we deep dive and get a little philosophical, check us out at workingdragonmystic.com. You can also find links to the community below. And that's absolutely free. We do have a supporter section, $10 a month, get you access to online courses, workshops, and a supporter only live chat that we do on Fridays. But these discussions that we do on all our videos, whether it's the Goetic series, Spellcraft, any of our videos that you will find on YouTube and Rumble, those are filmed live, and it's free to join the community and take part in that, or just take part in the community, chat, ask questions, and get help on things. Okay. All right. So some of the ones I found here that I really liked is Battista Alberti, I think is how this is pronounced. Be brave and courageous, for adversity is the proving ground of virtue. I like that. See, life's difficult. We know that. Life has its problems. We all face adversity of some kind. We may not always see each other's adversity, but no one is without it. And we have to face it courageously. That's how you grow. That's how you develop. So that's one. I like this one by Maya Angelou. Courage is the most important of all virtues, because without it, we can't practice any other virtue with consistency. I love this one because this honestly makes me think of the Dokudo and Musashi's teachings and consistency and having the discipline and the courage to continue day after day after day. I love this one. I would definitely meditate on this one. I actually wrote this one down in one of my little books over here so that I can actually meditate on it as one of my own meditations I'm going to be putting in my journal. I got a bunch of notes here. I'm scanning through real fast. Shakespeare. We got to throw some Shakespeare in here, right? Shakespeare's too famous to not. And I'd say most everyone's heard this one. Cowards die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste death but once. Right? And that's talking about, you're going to regret every time you act like a coward. And because of that, yeah, it sucks. It's a horrible feeling if you've ever felt it. It is a horrible feeling. But the courageous, like if you can truly be courageous through your life, you don't feel that feeling. And it is a feeling that most people do compare to a feeling worse than death. So that's kind of what Shakespeare's touching on there. Philippine proverb. I wanted to make sure this one's in there. To evade danger is not cowardice. Okay? Remember what we said about sometimes getting yourself out of a situation, avoiding conflict. Avoiding danger is not cowardice, right? It's just not. You're not going to go swimming in a volcano, think it's a good idea. You're just not going to do it. That is stupidity. If you can avoid danger, if you can avoid it, and there's no harm that comes from avoiding it, that's not cowardice. That's wisdom. That's courage. And it can take courage to do it. I mean, again, you can have bullies and whatnot running their mouths. If you can avoid the danger, if you can avoid the situation so that it doesn't escalate, that's not cowardice. Because again, it can take more courage to face the ridicule from walking away. It really can. Yes, Emerson. This is one too. The test of courage comes when we are in the minority, right? It is easy to do something. It's easy to do what's right when everyone else is doing it. It's easy to follow through when everyone else is doing it. There's all the motivation. There's all the praise. There's all the accolades. Everybody's on the same page. It's all fun, right? When you're the minority, that's when courage really, truly comes in and gets tested, because can you still do what's right? Can you still do the thing that needs to be done, even when everyone else is about to make fun of you? And Hemingway once said, courage is grace under pressure. I think that's the last one we'll give here today. Nice, short, sweet. I think it might not be short. I remember one the other day I thought it was like a 20-minute recording, turned out it was an hour. But yeah, straightforward. Courage, people. Courage. It is a complex topic. If you have questions, if you have quotes on courage that you would like to share, if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble, I would love to see them. I love me some quotes and little nuggets to meditate on. So by all means, if you have them, share them. Just make sure you share where they're from as well. And of course, those of you watching live, we will be jumping into the live chat here in just a second. All right. So thank you, everyone. I'm Drake. This has been Working Dragon Mystic. Till next time, take care. Bye-bye.